everybody, it's Jenny from the Missouri Star Quilt Company, and I've got a great project for you. Let's take a look at this quilt behind me. You're going to be a little surprised at how this comes out because it's a hexagon quilt and it's sitting on these half square triangles, but I've got a secret way to make it that makes it really easy. So to make this quilt, what you're going to need is one packet of 10-inch squares, and we have used Modern Backgrounds Luster by Zen Chic for Moda, and it's a beautiful line. There's lots of lights and darks in there, which make for great half square triangles, which is what we're going to do with this. You're also going to need 1.5 yards for your hexis, and we just cut them into 5-inch strips so we can cut our hexis out of them. For the inner border, you're going to need 1/2 yard right here. This little inner border is just 1/2 yard of fabric, and this outer border out here is a 6-inch border, and you're going to need 1.25 yards for that. For the back on this one, you're going to need 4.5 yards, and we've used the same backing fabric that we did on the border for this quilt. Just makes it look really pretty, brings it all together. All right, so let me show you how to do this because this is really fun. You're going to be a little surprised at what happens here. So first thing we're going to do is take our half hexi template. Oh yeah, you're also going to need a little half hexi template. I cut my background into 5-inch strips, and then we're going to cut our half hexis out of that 5-inch strip. So you're just going to match it on the line, and what I do is I use my long piece like this, and then I just turn it like this, and then I can go across and over and down, and it'll give me 2 hexis like that. You're going to need 8 hexis for each square. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our square right here, and we are going to put 2 hexis together, match them right up exactly, and line them up in the center of our square. Now there's a couple of ways you can do that. One is you can fold this and get a press line like that, and then make sure this is in half. You know what? I got that pretty exact. I didn't realize that. I was going to say the other way to do it is just to eyeball them. Because you're stacking them together, you don't have anything to match up. They will match up automatically. What I'm going to do is I'm going to lay these on here carefully, and I'm going to put my top piece on. So I have a light bottom square with my hexis all the way around, and I'm going to take these pins out, and then I'm going to put my top piece on like this. And then I'm going to slide my pins back in. Now, if you leave your pins out of the seam way, you know, out of the way of when you're sewing the seam, you can actually leave them in underneath. What I'm going to do, though, is I'm just going to slide my needle back like this. my pin back like this, and I'm going to pin it on all 4 sides. I'm not much of a pinner, but when you're dealing with something inside that you don't want it to move, you know, and you can always roll this up and look, make sure they're still right there in the middle, and then put a pin in there. Because what we're going to do is we are going to do the same thing that we do on our half square triangles. So we are going to sew 1/4 inch all the way around this square. So let's go to the sewing machine and do that. All right, we're just going to line up our 1/4 inch seam, and we're going to make sure we're on a good straight stitch here. And we're just going to slide down the side. And we're going to come down the side and just continue all the way around that 1/4 inch on all 4 sides. Make sure you catch that little hexi in there. Alrighty. So now comes the surprise. We're going to take these pins out. And just like we cut our half square triangles, we are going to cut this diagonally both directions. So we're going to cut here, and then we're going to cut this way. I'm actually going to flip this over so you can see it a little better. So I'm going to line it up corner to corner. And we're going to make a cut here. And we're going to make a cut here, just like this. And this is my favorite way to make half square triangles. But now when we open these, here's the surprise. You're going to have that little half hexi because you put 2. We're going to be able to iron them over just like that. So let's go to the ironing board. And we're just going to keep it to the dark still. And so we're just going to lay that on there and press them out. And we're gonna do this on all 4 sides. Now we need to stitch all the way around. You can use a tiny little zigzag, or you can use a buttonhole stitch. I'm gonna do a buttonhole stitch on mine. Now normally I would use a dark thread or match this to my thread. I'm gonna use white because I want you to be able to see what I'm doing. And so I'm just gonna come along here with a little button stitch. So we'll sew along the edge of that. You know, I guess you could use a contrasting thread if you wanted it to show up. It doesn't look terrible. I'm just a matcher. I'm a matcher, so I match everything. Because these were laid right together and sewn into the seam, they match perfectly. So, because if you tried to do them separate, there's always that chance they'd be off. And this way they come out exactly right. All right, there we go. Now I'm gonna clip that. And you're gonna do this to all your blocks. You're just gonna do your little blanket stitch. Let me trim these threads. This is kind of probably a dangerous way to trim threads. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. Use your scissors, use your scissors. So now you have this cool half square triangle that has a hexagon right in the middle of it. Because we've sewn it in a seam, you'll lose the line and it's gonna look like a whole hexi on the quilt. You can see that from the quilt behind me. And I wanna show you how we laid this out. So what we did here is we put these together in a chevron. So you can see, if you follow this dark line with me right here, you can see the chevron come through it just like this. Okay? And to do a chevron, what you're gonna do is you're gonna do a row, sew a row together where your darks come together like this. And then your next row you're gonna sew together where your lights come together like this. And that's gonna make your chevron. You see how that's happening there? Here, I'll put a couple more. Let's do this one. We've got our lights together. I am so angrily challenged. Things get so turned around to me. All right, so there you can see the big chevron happening. Now, one of the fun things with this, because it's a half square triangle, you can do anything we do with half square triangles, you can do with this. So if you want to make these a block where all the darks come inside like this, and the lights come in, you know, then you'll have light squares with dark squares accenting your pinwheels like that. It'll be a really cool pattern. I mean, you guys have got to have fun with this layout. I can hardly wait to see what you do. You can do pinwheels. So we put them around like this. Wait, I got something wrong here. Light, dark, light, dark, light, dark, light, dark. All seams to the center. And so there's your pinwheel block. My gosh, there's just so many fun things that you can do with half square triangles. So even though we set ours as a chevron, you have fun with it, play with it. This is a great little surprise hexi that just pops out on your seam when you sew your 2 blocks together, just like we do half square triangles. And I just hope you enjoy it. I had fun making it, and we hope you enjoyed this tutorial on the surprise half hexi from the Missouri Star Quilt Company.